It's time for really quick equity and excellence in teaching tips. I am your host, Michelle Singh, an educator, professor, author, student, and mother. I'm happy to share this topic from the Equal methodology, which is a framework for diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. So let's get right into our conversation. Are you ready to empower and uplift the next generation? Discover the transformative power of anti-racist teaching, where students from historically excluded groups can finally see themselves and their experiences reflected in the curriculum and in the classroom. Join this movement for equity and inclusion in our education right now, today. Growing up as a person of color, I struggled to find representation in the literature that I was taught in school. It wasn't until I took an African-American literature class in college that I finally began to see myself reflected in the stories and in the characters. The validation that I felt in those moments were profound. As a mother of a Black child, I was determined not to let my daughter experience the same lack of representation that I had growing up. So I surrounded her with books and images and experiences that reflected her culture, including buying her a library of Black authors and taking her on trips to expose her to diverse experiences and joining organizations that emphasized the importance of her Black heritage. I was determined to make a difference for my students as well. As a teacher, I made sure to incorporate culturally responsive teaching practices and multicultural texts into my lessons so that I would ensure that all of my students felt seen and heard and valued in the classroom. As a teacher, there is nothing quite like the feeling of making a meaningful impact on a student's life. I remember receiving a DM from a former student back in 2020, and it really brought tears to my eyes. In her message, she expressed gratitude for introducing her and her classmates to African-American literature and the significance of representation in the curriculum. She said, quote, "Ms. Singh, thank you so much for exposing our class to African-American literature. So many teachers fail to do so." She went on to share how thrilled she was that Shan, who is my daughter, gets to see herself represented in one of the highest offices in this country. She was referring to Kamala Harris serving as the Vice President of the United States of America. This simple act of including diverse voices and perspectives in the curriculum had an impact on this student. And it was a powerful reminder of the vital role that teachers play in shaping young minds and fostering a love of learning. Have you ever thought about how different people's experiences can shape their understanding of the world? Some students really value learning about different perspectives and experiences through anti-racist teaching. They see it as a way to promote equality and understanding in the classroom. They feel empowered by the material they're learning and think it's relevant to their lives. For other students, especially those students from marginalized groups, anti-racist teaching hits closer to home. They appreciate having their experiences and perspectives acknowledged and validated in the classroom. They see the material as important and necessary in order to understand and address the ways in which they've been impacted by racism and oppression. So how can we ensure that we don't get that message that says so many teachers fail to do so? We have to know and act on the impact our practices and our pedagogy have on our students. So here are 3 ways students are affected by anti-racist teaching. Number 1, students feel heard and they feel seen. They feel affirmed in their learning environments by teachers and by their peers. In return, students have a greater sense of value and acceptance and belonging in their learning environments. Here's an example. Maria was a high school student who was struggling in her history class. She felt disconnected from the material, as if the events and the people discussed in the class were completely foreign to her and her culture. However, everything changed when her teacher introduced a unit on the Mexican Revolution and brought to light the important contributions of indigenous people like Maria's ancestors. This was a revelation for her. Maria was in disbelief. She couldn't believe that for the first time, she saw herself and her culture represented in the curriculum. And that impact was instantaneous because Maria became more interested and involved in the class, asking insightful questions, and her grades even improved. Seeing her own culture and identity reflected in the education that she was receiving made Maria feel validated and empowered and inspired to keep learning. So now that we've talked about how students can feel heard and seen and affirmed, let's jump into number 2, which relates to safe spaces. Students appreciate the safe environment that they can learn and that they can share in. This allows them to feel more secure when they are speaking up and when they're sharing their unique perspectives. As a teacher, I have seen firsthand the power of creating a positive and inclusive classroom atmosphere. When I use inclusive language and encourage open dialogue and give students a chance to share their unique experiences and perspectives, they feel comfortable and confident. I've watched students light up with excitement as they share their ideas and perspectives with their classmates, who in turn listen with respect and genuine interest. This creates a supportive and empowering atmosphere where everyone feels valued and heard, and it makes for a much more enjoyable and productive learning experience for all involved. So picture a classroom buzzing with excitement and eagerness as students are gathered around in a circle, eyes bright with engagement, hands reaching out to express their thoughts and ideas in a respectful manner. This is a Socratic seminar, and this was what my classroom looked like when we had Socratic seminars. It was amazing to see my students fully immersed in the discussion, feeling confident and at ease to share their diverse perspectives. The room was filled with a sense of camaraderie as students listened to each other, nodding along in agreement or respectfully challenging each other's opinions. It was truly a beautiful thing to witness and be part of, and just to share that space with students as they were participating in that way. And the best part was that my students felt it too. They felt valued and appreciated and expressed their gratitude for being able to participate in such a supportive and inclusive learning environment. It was a humbling reminder of the impact that a teacher can have in creating a safe and comfortable space where all students feel heard and seen. I was a very proud teacher when we had Socratic seminars in my classroom, and I will definitely cherish those moments because those are some of my best moments of being in the classroom. All right, you heard a bit about students having an appreciation for a safe space to share. So let's move on to our topic number 3, which relates to diverse perspectives. When it comes to learning about diverse perspectives, there are so many benefits for students. So here are just a few. They get to know more about different cultures and backgrounds and perspectives. They learn to be more understanding and accepting of others. They expand their understanding of the world and different ways of life. They practice empathy and respect for others. They confront their own biases and become more inclusive. They have a chance for personal growth and self-reflection. They get to exercise their creativity and their problem solving. They are introduced to new ideas and ways of thinking, and they develop important cultural competency skills. I recall a project I did with my students that will stay with me for a very, very long time, right? The task was for students to delve into the literature of their own culture or of their ancestors. And the outcome was truly unforgettable. The project had several stages, but the finale was a literature exposition day. The day was filled with a tapestry of text and authors and perspectives, many of which were brand new to my students. As they shared their projects with confidence and poise, I was struck by the level of interest that they showed in each other's work. They listened intently, asked insightful questions, and showed a genuine curiosity for diverse cultures and ways of life. The atmosphere was one of mutual respect and understanding, and by the end of the day, my students had developed a deep appreciation for the beauty of diversity and the power of different perspectives. All right, folks, we are at the end of our discussion about how students are affected by anti-racist teaching. And the three ways we've talked about are they feel heard, seen, affirmed, and valued, number one. Number two is they appreciate having a comforting environment. And number three is they are exposed to diverse perspectives and experiences. Thank you for taking time to listen and being open to learning more about anti-racist teaching and its effect on students. We appreciate being on this journey toward equity and excellence in teaching with you. So I would like to share this one last thing before you go. Don't wait another day to start embracing diversity and breaking down barriers in your classroom. With anti-racist teaching, you can empower your students to recognize and accept and celebrate differences. Let's take some inspiration from the words of Audre Lorde, who said, "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize and accept and celebrate those differences." So let's strive to create a world where differences are celebrated, not used to divide us. The future starts with you. So will you make a difference in your students' lives today? I invite you to consider how you can recognize, accept, and celebrate the differences of your students, particularly those from historically excluded backgrounds. The next move is on you. So let's put these ideas to work. Take time to implement and time to reflect. And don't forget to join the conversation. I invite you to share your thoughts and progress with our community online at LCT-E Learning. You may even use the hashtag #LearnWithLCT-E. We look forward to engaging with you. Thank you for watching.